strategies, the weapons, and the heroes who shaped the greatest conflicts of all time. Battlefront, the story of military history. For the past 30 years, the Uzi, a powerful, durable, and devastatingly efficient submachine gun, has had a profound effect upon military forces all over the world. It is a well-balanced weapon, easy to use, and has a dependability that is unrivaled. Uzis have been submerged in water, buried in mud, and dropped down cliffs, yet they never cease to perform reliably and efficiently. The Uzi is named for its inventor, Lieutenant Uziel Gal of the Israeli Army. When it was organized in 1948, the Israeli Army was using an enormous variety of weapons, including German MP-38s and MP-40s, British Sten guns and Italian Berettas. Training and maintenance was difficult with so many different small arms, so Gal settled down and designed a brand new submachine gun. The Uzi was seen as revolutionary. It was reliable, compact, and simple to manufacture. It has undergone little change since its creation. The Uzi still boasts an effective range of 200 meters and a cyclic firing rate of 600 rounds per minute. The Uzi is just 47 centimeters long, but has a 26 centimeter barrel. Its small size and lethal efficiency are due to the unique and brilliant wraparound bolt, which enables a relatively short gun like the Uzi or its variants to house a barrel long enough to give reasonable accuracy at up to 200 meters. The earliest models were fitted with a clumsy wooden stock, but these are no longer commonly used. Rather, most Uzis use a metal stock, which may be folded or unfolded, depending on which is needed. The Uzi has had much actual combat experience. It is the preferred weapon of many worldwide commando units and specialty security forces. Other countries have introduced their own variations of the Uzi. The best and most widely used variation of the Uzi is the Beretta Model 12, adopted by the Italian Army, but now also widely used by North Africa, Latin America, and the Far East. The Model 12 has a more conventional design and is more accurate than the Uzi. Italy has also produced the Spectre, a relatively new weapon that is beginning to make a big impression with its excellent reliability and incredible accuracy. Britain has produced its own variations of the Uzi, the oldest of which is the Sterling L2A3. The Sterling has been the standard submachine gun of the British Army since the early 1950s. Though a reliable weapon, the Sterling is for all practical purposes obsolete. It does not use the wraparound belt and is very heavy. When it comes to accuracy, there is no equal to the Hector and Koch MP5, which is the most accurate submachine gun in the world. Though more complicated and a good deal more expensive than the Uzi, the MP5 is an increasingly popular weapon which has seen action in thwarting terrorist actions in London, Rome, and Vienna. The least durable and safe of the submachine guns is the Steyr MP-I-69. The Steyr is small and fairly accurate, but it's difficult to control and has the dangerous tendency to go off accidentally. The Son of Uzi, or Micro Uzi, is a proportionally smaller Uzi, usually just 36 centimeters long, and is intended for commando and security operations. Though smaller and more portable, the mini Uzis have such high firing rates they are difficult to control. The Uzi is a formidable weapon, strong, crudely efficient, and deadly. Though new submachine guns are appearing, few can match the Uzi's durability and 30 years of combat experience. Frederick II, who would later become known as Frederick the Great, was one of Prussia's most dedicated and brilliant leaders. As a military strategist, he was unequaled, but he was also a wise and enlightened king who sought not only to meet the military needs of the nation of Prussia, but its social and political needs as well. Frederick was born in Berlin in 1712, the son of Frederick William I and Princess Sophia of Hanover, the sister of George II of England. When young, Frederick disappointed his strict father by showing a greater interest in books and lute playing than in military strategy. He became the King of Prussia in 1740 and began his reign by invading Silesia, a territory which he managed to keep even after the ensuing 8 years of the War of the Austrian Succession. As a king, Frederick was determined to retain the power Prussia had gained at the conclusion of the 30 Years' War. Frederick earned most of his fame from his success in the 7 Years' War, which lasted from 1756 to 1763. In the war, Frederick brilliantly held off the combined forces of Austria, France, and Russia. His first offensive was an incursion into Bohemia in the spring of 1757. He cemented his control here with a decisive victory in May at the Battle of Prague. His greatest victories, however, were at Rossbach and Luften. The 7 Years' War exhausted Prussia's resources, and at its conclusion, Frederick spent the remainder of his life reorganizing the state. Frederick was often referred to as an enlightened despot. In civic matters, he wanted efficient government, but he did not believe the common people could rule themselves. He greatly enjoyed philosophy, and the famous French writer Voltaire became one of Frederick's closest friends. Frederick built a stable government and a powerful military. Encouraging industry and agriculture, he made Prussia the strongest German state and a dangerous rival to the power of Austria and France. Militarily, Frederick was a great hero. He planned battles well in advance, and he was able to win with quick, powerful strokes, even when fighting vastly larger armies. His tactics were brave and bold, and he helped make Prussia's army one of the strongest in all Europe. Frederick died in 1786. Even today, he is remembered as a great king and a military hero. On September 1st, 1939, Adolf Hitler, totalitarian dictator of Germany's Third Reich, began the greatest conflict in the history of mankind. Hitler invaded Poland for several reasons. First was his greed and lust for power. Hitler also desired the Polish corridor. This area, wedged between Poland and Germany, had once been part of Germany, but now separated the Third Reich from East Prussia. The Polish corridor also contained the important port city of Danzig. Due to the passiveness of the Allies to Hitler's acquisitions of Austria, the Rhineland, and Czechoslovakia, the Fuhrer firmly believed that the Allies would not interfere if he attacked Poland. For these reasons, Hitler unleashed his war machine on a shocked and unprepared Poland. What Hitler unleashed on Poland was a terrifying and devastating tactic of war called Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Blitzkrieg was a new, brilliant form of warfare that focused on cooperative attacks with air, armor, and infantry units. Blitzkrieg came in 4 stages. Bombing was the first and perhaps the most important element of Blitzkrieg. For bombing, Germany relied chiefly on its premier medium bomber, the Heinkel HE-111. Developed in 1936, the Heinkel HE-111, though awkward in appearance, served with crushing success in Poland. The 111 operated on 2 Junkers Jumo 211F2 inlines, which supplied 1,350 horsepower at takeoff. While armament differed between models, most 111s had 3 13mm MG-131 and 4 7.92mm MG-81 machine guns, plus a bomb load of up to 4,410 pounds. It accommodated 5 and had a speed of 270 miles per hour and a range of 1,280 miles. Bombing was key to Blitzkrieg because it destroyed important routes of travel and communication, softened enemy armor, struck difficult targets with relative precision, and paved the way for armored units. Fighter aircraft became a necessity to Blitzkrieg because they escorted bombers on their sorties and eliminated aerial resistance. In the Polish campaign, Germany's fighters were Messerschmitt Bf-109Ds. The 109s became famous throughout World War II for their reliability and durability. Although the D was the first and most inferior of the Bf-109 line, it was still able to gain complete dominance over the Polish Air Force. The 109D was a single-seat fighter armed with 2 7.9mm MG-17 machine guns and 1 MG FF cannon. It was powered by a Daimler-Benz DB600A liquid-cooled 12-cylinder inverted V engine capable of supplying 990 horsepower at takeoff. The 109D had a speed of 370 miles per hour and a range of 350 miles. Supported by fighters, paratroops and commandos were launched into the battle. Supplies, men, and transport was a job almost totally taken by the Luftwaffe, or Germany's Air Force. This job fell to the Junkers Ju-52 transport aircraft. This large three-engine behemoth was first introduced in the early 1930s. It had a capacity of 18 troops, or room for 12 stretchers. It had a speed of 189 miles per hour and a range of 930 miles. While the Ju-52 was certainly not well armed or overly efficient, it was cheap and did the job of transporting men and supplies. The third and pivotal part of Blitzkrieg was the introduction of armored units supported by fighters and dive bombers. On the ground, the backbone of the German armor was the dreaded Panzer tank. The Panzer was one of the best tanks of World War II. While the Panzers that served in Poland, like this one, fought with great success, they were quickly made obsolete by future models such as the powerful Tigers. Supporting the Panzers on the ground were armored cars equipped with 20mm cannon. The Panzers received tremendous aid from German dive bombers, the most famous of them the Junkers Ju-87 Stuka, which became known as the mobile artillery of the German Army. The abbreviation Stuka applied to all dive bombing aircraft, but came to be most associated with the Ju-87. The Stuka was well armed with two 7.9mm MG-17 machine guns and one 7.9mm MG-15 in the rear cockpit, four 110-pound bombs under the wings, and a 1,100-pound bomb under the fuselage. It was powered by a Junkers Jumo 211A1 12-cylinder inverted V inline engine, supplying the Stuka with a maximum speed of 217 miles per hour and a range of 342 miles. It served with incredible success throughout the Polish campaign, earning a reputation later disproved by the British and American fighters. The importance of the Stuka to armored units was underestimated during the war. The precision bombing and aerial support of the Ju-87 won many battles for the Reich. After all the bombing and tanks, victory in Blitzkrieg still depended on the humble infantrymen. The infantrymen required transport into battle, and for this they relied on the SDK-FC-7 half-track carrier. It could accommodate 12 men, and with a speed of 31 miles per hour and a range of 250 miles, it was often used to transport troops into Polish battlefields. The infantry had to be armed, and during the invasion of Poland, most German infantrymen were equipped with the MP-38 or MP-40 submachine gun. These weapons were light, strong, and had a high rate of fire. Semi-automatic rifles, such as the Walther 41, were also key weapons. Many of these rifles used gas-operated self-loading mechanisms. These weapons suffered, however, from poor safety devices. For more compact firepower, the German infantrymen relied on the trusted 9mm Parabellum Model 8 Luger semi-automatic pistol. The Luger had been used since World War I and was used extensively by the Germans until production ended in 1942. The heavier machine gun had been introduced in World War I, and its usefulness was fully exploited by the Germans in the MG-34, perhaps the best machine gun of the war. The MG-34 was excellently made and well designed, but was extremely expensive to produce. All of these elements combined to form the power of Blitzkrieg, which helped Hitler conquer much of Europe. By the invasion of Poland, Germany had about 130 ships and two partially built aircraft carriers. Germany had 57 U-boat submarines, 32 of them strictly limited to coastal operations. The Luftwaffe had 4,700 aircraft, including 552 Ju-52 transports. The Reich had over 9,000 anti-aircraft guns, 2,600 of them being heavy-caliber weapons. Poland, on the other hand, had a weak and obsolete air force, totaling 842 aircraft with no bombers. The backbone of the Polish Air Force was the PZL P-11C single-seat fighter. It had a maximum speed of 240 miles per hour and a range of 503 miles per hour. The P-11 was also used by Latvia and Romania. The P-11 was designed in the early 1930s and was awkward in shape. The plane suffered from poor aerodynamics and a lack of maneuverability. The Luftwaffe was able to gain complete superiority over these aircraft, especially since most were destroyed while still on the ground. Although it lacked an effective air force, Poland's army was one of the largest in the world. However, it had tremendous weaknesses in equipment, organization, and training. At 04:45 hours on September 1st, 1939, Germany attacked Poland without warning. The German army of about 1,250,000 men with 9 armored divisions greatly overwhelmed the Polish force of about 800,000. The Germans had 2 goals in their attack. First, they wished to march quickly through Poland and capture Warsaw before sufficient resistance could be mounted. The second goal was to eliminate the Polish Air Force and Army with heavy bombing attacks before they could mobilize. The plan was simple. The German 4th, 8th, and 10th Armies would attack from Germany and Slovakia. While most of the Polish army struggled to defend the border, the German 3rd Army would march quickly to Warsaw from East Prussia. By September 3rd, most of the Polish army had been routed. Great Britain declared war on Germany at 1100 hours and France at 1700 hours on the same day. Despite their declarations, Britain and France could do little to help Commander-in-Chief Marshal Edward Wright Smigly and Poland. The most shocking part of the campaign was the pact between Russia and Germany, which resulted in Russia attacking Poland on September 17th. Between September 5th and 17th, there were the battles of Warsaw and Kutno-Lodz. Despite desperate and fierce fighting, Warsaw was captured on September 27th. Resistance continued, however, until October 5th. The heavy bombings of Germany left much of Poland in ruins, and the city of Warsaw was almost totally destroyed. About 66,000 Poles were killed, 200,000 wounded, and about 640,000 captured. Losses for Germany included 10,570 killed, 30,322 wounded, and 3,400 missing. The Polish campaign shocked the world and showed that Hitler was about to embark on a crusade to conquer the world. In 1939, the Third Reich had one terrible weakness. This was their navy, the Kriegsmarine. Although the Wehrmacht remained unchallenged in continental Europe, the Kriegsmarine was fiercely outnumbered by the Royal Fleet. The Allies had overwhelming naval superiority. Despite the large number of ships, 676 built or launched, the Allied fleet suffered from a lack of anti-aircraft defense and poor armor. Plus, many of their ships were of World War I vintage. Still, Germany had only 130 ships capable of sea travel at the beginning of the war and lacked the heavy warships of France and Britain. Plus, Germany's 2 aircraft carriers, one of which had already been launched, were still not complete. Germany did have 57 dreaded U-boat submarines under the brilliant command of Commander Karl Dönitz. 32 of them, however, were small boats designed exclusively for coastal operations. While they could scourge the North Sea, they were incapable of Atlantic ship raiding. To make matters worse, the U-boats lacked effective ranges and suffered from serious flaws in their torpedoes.
Now hear this. All hands clear the flight deck. All hands clear the flight deck. Prepare aircraft for the 1100 launch.
Home.
Tower, this is Victor 203.
We're free to enjoy its simple pleasures.
Roger 203.
Because they're out here, guarantee that freedom. The men and women of the Navy, out here today, safeguarding your tomorrow.
Good job, 203. Welcome home.
In a way, this is the next logical step. Everything I've done has led to this moment. But you know, I never imagined that I would be here someday. I was looking for challenge and adventure, and I wanted a chance to grow. The Coast Guard offered all of these and more. But the first step was to join. It made sense. A small service with a big mission. They had everything from sea level up. Responsibility, opportunities, action. The Coast Guard has all the right stuff.
I'm Commander Bruce Melnick, United States Coast Guard. Take that first step today. It could very well be one giant leap.
Roger, Columbia. This is
The Coast Guard and Coast Guard Reserve. Call toll-free or see your Coast Guard recruiter.
Either unaware or unconcerned over the odds, Hitler ordered agitation of merchant shipping. But he had to be careful to avoid an incident like the sinking of the Lusitania, which helped bring the U.S. into World War I. While the U-boats attacked underwater, two German pocket battleships, the Admiral Graf Spee and the Deutschland, sunk Allied shipping from above. These two ships were expected to perform well, but neither accomplished a great deal. Before being recalled to Germany to be rechristened, the Deutschland had sunk only two ships with a gross of about 7,000 tons. The Graf Spee was stationed near Brazil, and on September 27, 1939, it was ordered to attack shipping in the Atlantic on its 77-day war cruise. The Graf Spee scored better than its counterpart, sinking 9 ships for a gross of 50,000 tons. The Graf Spee was an excellent ship with a 4-inch armor belt and a length of 609 feet. It was armed with 6 11-inch and 8 5.9-inch guns, as well as 6 4.1-inch, 8 37mm, and 10 20mm anti-aircraft guns, and 8 21-inch torpedo tubes. British Commodore H.H. Harwood's South Atlantic Cruiser Squadron was operating in the area of the Graf Spee. Harwood's ships included the heavy cruiser Exeter and the light cruisers Ajax and Achilles. Exeter had a 2 to 3-inch belt and a crew of 630. Its armament consisted of 6 8-inch guns, 4 4-inch and 2 2-pounder anti-aircraft guns, and 6 21-inch torpedo tubes. On December 13, 1939, the Graf Spee headed for the River Plate area near Montevideo, Uruguay, where it was spotted by Harwood's fleet. The Graf Spee outclassed all its opponents in terms of armament, and her armor could be damaged only by a direct hit from one of Exeter's 8-inch guns. Harwood still believed victory could be obtained. He planned to have the Exeter attack alone, while the Ajax and the Achilles circled around to take the Graf Spee's flank. The lone Exeter was easy prey for the Graf Spee. Its commander, Captain Hans Langsdorff, exploited the advantage. The Exeter was almost completely destroyed, and it dropped out of the battle at 0715 hours on December 13th. The Ajax and Achilles engaged, but their weak guns could not hope to cripple the Graf Spee. The Ajax, which was the flagship, came under fire and was badly damaged. With half its guns knocked out and 3/4 of its ammunition gone, the Ajax, with the Achilles close behind, pulled out of the battle at 0740 hours. Langsdorff could have pursued and finished the British, but being a humane and compassionate commander, the losses to his crew paralyzed him. 36 had been killed and 59 wounded. While damage was minimal, Langsdorff believed that the Graf Spee would not survive the North Atlantic, so he raced to Montevideo to make repairs. He was not allowed by Uruguay due to it being a neutral nation to stay longer than 72 hours. Langsdorff knew he could not repair the ship in that amount of time, and he succumbed to rumors that the British battlecruiser Renown and aircraft carrier Ark Royale were waiting for him. So on December 17th, he ordered the Graf Spee to be scuttled. Overcome with grief at losing his ship, Langsdorff shot himself on December 20th. This defeat was a blow to the Germans, but even worse was the failure of the U-boat campaign. Until the reintroduction of the convoy system, which stopped the U-boats in World War I, the German submarines had sunk only 114 ships for a tonnage of 421,156. When the convoy system did begin again, only 4 Allied ships were sunk. 1939 ended with the German Kriegsmarine at a serious disadvantage in the sea war.